форум вдохновит всех нас на новые свершения.
Любые изменения в социальной сфере требуют большой смелости.
Без качественной работы в социальной сфере невозможно эффективно решить задачи, которые стоят перед страной.
И мы должны предпринять максимум усилий для того, чтобы перемены, изменения и инновации проходили во благо наших граждан.
Это и формирует восприятие у людей страны развитой, благополучной.
Мы обязательно поменяем качество оказания услуг.
Площадка форума социальных инноваций регионов исключительно важна для всей нашей страны.
Спасибо за эту инициативу, она крайне своевременна.
На сцену приглашается
I invite to the podium Deputy Speaker of the Council of Federation of Russia, Galina Karelova, Minister of the Moscow government, Head of the Department of Labor and Social Protection of Population, Vladimir Petrosyan, Director General of the Agency of Strategic Initiatives of New Projects, Svetlana Nachuvsheva, physicist, theoretician, Mitio Kaku, well-known American traveler and author who wrote the book Blue Zones, Ted Butner. Dear colleagues, dear friends, today is the third day of the Forum of Social Innovation. This is the third forum dedicated to social innovations, and I was authorized by Madam Matviyenko and Sergei Sobyanin, co-chairs of our forum. We have today our closing plenary meeting. It's a real pleasure for us to welcome you here. You are in good health and you have a good mood, so we would like to thank you for your optimism, for your professional approach, for your kindness, which you've demonstrated by all of us. I'm sure that our third day will be as active as the previous two, and you will like the third day same like the first two. During this time, dear colleagues, around 30,000 Muscovites, participants of the forum, and you, Muscovites and guests of our city, were able to participate at this forum. Someone participated in the discussions, and a lot of Muscovites visited lecture presentations, and they've seen excellent exhibition. Such large-scale exhibition the social sector have never organized before. We are proving that social sector today is a modern developing, dynamic sector, and we do hope that in the nearest future we will have the same forum as St. Pete Economic Forum. We are sure of that, about that, if of course you support us. Dear colleagues, today at the plenary meeting we will give the floor to experts who are working in the social policy sector, including our foreign colleagues. And I'd like to tell you that representatives of 15 countries participated at our fora. Thus, the third fora could be regarded as an international event. I do hope that next fourth fora will have much more representatives from different countries, and we will do our best to use best practices of other countries, to know these best practices. And what is most important for us is to be able to demonstrate, to present unique, innovative social projects which we have in Russia. That's why I do hope that our experts, that presentations of our experts you liked a lot. There have been a lot of interesting presentations, meetings, and actually we will cooperate in the future as well. Dear colleagues, I'd like to mention the fact that we are organizing this forum in Moscow, and today is the birthday of the mayor of Moscow, Sergei Sobyanin. I believe that we can congratulate Mr. Sobyanin, and we are wishing him good health, success, and we hope that ideas and projects of social development of Moscow will have a new level, and representatives of different regions, all of us, will study these best practices and use them. Dear colleagues, we begin our plenary meeting, and I give the floor to the Minister of Moscow government, head of the Department of Labor and Social Protection of Muscovites, Mr. Petrosyan, Vladimir Petrosyan. Good afternoon, dear friends, dear colleagues. We are closing the third forum today dedicated to social innovations. It's not only the platform for demonstrating our achievements, but also for discussion of new technologies, new models of social policy, which is important not only for Moscow and the regions, but for Russia in general. The two principles are the basic one: the subdivision of citizens into categories, and the declarative approach for getting assistance. Muscovites ask for the assistance, and we give assistance. Without a request, there is no assistance. In the 90s, it was a correct approach, the only correct approach to support our citizens. But time is changing, Moscow is changing, Russia is changing, and thanks to new technologies, we have to advance, and we have to advance further. We shall be proactive in order to detect those who are in need of assistance. We see today that people need not only standard assistance, but also assistance in solving their individual problems, which are a lot. Unfortunately, today in Moscow we have 185 people who are alone, who are older than 85 years old. The majority of them, we don't see them because they didn't ask for any kind of assistance. That's why our today's task is without undermining their personal life, understand what do they need and why don't they ask for assistance. Well, there are persons who do not go to polyclinics, to hospitals, do not answer telephone calls, and here our task is to help such person. We have to provide him an assistance. I'm talking about old age persons. We can mention families with kids. We have to study the situation in each and every family in order to later to not to find Mowglis in our flats. And this is our principle. That's how we organize our social support in Moscow. We are ahead of time, and this is the task for all health and education centers. It's an interagency approach, and synergy is one of the modern principles which we follow in our policy. Today, Moscow is solving problems of, is trying to lower the threshold of poverty. It's 7.2% in Moscow now. It's not a very high percentage, but still it's a problem for us. According to our data, 108,000 families in Moscow are in need of support. They live in a situation of poverty, and the general number of such members of such families, 250,000 persons. And now we've developed a new model how to help these families to get out of this circle. First of all, we provide them with job, and we do understand that the main method to generate income is to have a job, to have an employment. If a person has an employment and salary, it's good. If a person doesn't have an employment, it means that we won't be able to solve the problem of poverty. That's why our social contracts now are part of employment, and thus we support families which are in need of assistance. We have a newly established Center Korea, which is located in Sergei Radersky Street, working with families and kids. We are detecting families who are in need of our support. We provide them with such a support through services which we have in our city. For example, kindergartens or preschool for kids, creation in Moscow, family kindergartens, and some other activities which have to do with our assistance provided to kids. We are preparing the celebration of 75th anniversary of our victory in World War II. World War II veterans are a special category. This is a special group of people, and we respect them a lot. We take care of them not only when we are preparing to celebrate our victory. We shall do this every day. We have 56,000 World War II veterans living in Moscow. 7.5 of them participated directly in World War II, and we have to do everything for their life, for their decent life. We provide them with medical assistance, and together with Moscow Veterans Organization, we are trying to upgrade the quality of assistance provided to this category of people. Unfortunately, in Moscow, we have 1,006,000 handicapped, among them 60,000 children, and we have to change our work with them. First of all, we have to create conditions for handicapped persons, young handicapped persons who can work, and we have 230,000 of such persons in Moscow. 50,000 of them can work, and only 60,000, unfortunately, have a job today. And our task today is to generate employment for handicapped persons, and this should be a priority for us. And through the center career, we will work together with our parliament in order to generate employment for such handicapped persons, in order to provide them income, guarantee them income. And they're always saying, we don't want to ask assistance from you. Just give us the possibility to work, and we will support our family ourselves. That's our approach today, together with the center career. What kind of processes we are facing in other social spheres, education, health, etc. You've seen the exhibition, the Moscow Standard of Polyclinics, City of Education, how Moscow Electronic School is working. Almost 80,000 of persons are now using this Moscow Electronic School. All schools which are working under our department and who are working with handicapped children are also part of Moscow Electronic Schools. And the Standard of Moscow Polyclinics, you have seen this exhibition. Moscow is Moscow is changing its approach. We are developing program of healthy lifestyle. We have a program called Moscow Longevity, which is aimed at our older generation. And now we have 160,000 Muscovites of advanced age. We've organized different activities for them. You've seen them at the exhibition, but we are not sitting on our hands. We keep developing this program. Now we have a program, a Healthy Moscow, which is covering young, labor-capable population of our city. And in 46 parts of Moscow, we have created mobile modules, Healthy Moscow, and any Muscovites can come there, get medical checkup, and all this data will be introduced into electronic medical bulletin. I will not abuse your attention, colleagues. I believe that we have an interesting forum because we have representatives of different regions participating in it. Thank you for coming here. We've been able to know your best practices, and you've heard about our experience. We've demonstrated to our guests our projects in the area of social protection, health, education, and I hope that guests of our forum actually were able to evaluate what we have done. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for your participation at our exhibition. I'd like to thank our foreign experts. Almost 50 countries of the world are represented here. Author of the book Blue Zone is here. Mr. Kaku is here, and other experts. We've met them. Thank you very much for finding time to come here. You've gave us a very interesting information about longevity, but other topics. Well, probably you'll find something interesting in our Russian experience. It's not that we've learned your experience. We hope that we've demonstrated to you what we've done in the social area in Moscow. I'd like to thank all participants, all those who visited our forum, more than 130,000. I'd like to thank Valentina Matviyenko, Speaker of Council of Federation, who is an inspiration of this forum. Thanks to her initiative, we celebrate the third forum today. Galina Ivanovna, I'd like to thank you for organizing this forum, and I'd like to thank all our non-commercial organizations who are present here, which actually helped us to know better their experience and experience of our regions. On behalf of Moscow, on behalf of Mr. Sobyanin, I'd like to thank all participants of the third forum of social innovations. Thank you. Thank you, Vladimir. Dear colleagues, we have here the advisor of the President of Russia, Alexandra Levitskaya, as well as deputy ministers of social bloc, senators, State Duma deputies, parliamentarians. Moscow is represented by a huge team, not only those who work in social sectors. We have here representatives of business, non-commercial organizations. Once again, I'd like to repeat what Vladimir said. We have here representatives of all regions of Russia. I'd like to give the floor to the Director General of the Agency of Strategic Initiative in support of national projects, Svetlana Chusheva. Good afternoon, dear friends. Third Forum of Social Innovations is not only a Russian federal regional platform, it's an international platform already. And we are discussing each year new approaches in social sector, new methods, new practices. We learn from each other. We meet with our new partners, and we can get information about new approaches, how to take care of elder people, how to help young people, how to help handicapped people. This forum unites not only social sector representatives, but also business and non-commercial organizations to talk about social innovations and technologies. We can only joining our efforts and to solve the global tasks of prosperity of our citizens. We can do this together. My agency works a lot with regions, and we see huge transformations which took place recently in the social sector. In the past, we followed the logic of social obligations and social budgets. Today, we see our task differently, and we evaluate it differently. Presently, our national priorities or decrees adopted in May are measured from the point of view of people's prosperity. It's not the number of hospitals built or number of schools and other centers. We are talking about longevity. We are talking about lower level of mortality. We are talking about lower level of poverty. And when we have these ambitious tasks, we need new approaches, no doubt about that. And social sector is an investment sector, but it's not a short-term investment. It's an investments for dozens of years ahead, because we're talking about human capital. We talk about health of our people. We talk about our kids to be successful, not only in their education, but also in selecting their profession, future profession. According to our calculations, our needs in the social area is about 500 billion of rubles. More than 400 projects of PPP has been developed in different areas. It's culture, social sector, education, health, and the most recent projects which we have developed with business is a project with Внешэкономбанк in Novgorod region, the editorial house Просвещение or Enlightenment. It's building of summer camps for kids and projects in Sakha-Yakutia together with Vneshekonombank in the educational area, which has to do with better educational grades and more accessible education for children. And it's a social impact bonds project. Is the so-called payment for the result or award for the result. If you achieve certain result, you got this award. And such new tools, innovative solutions of between business and non-commercial organizations, we have more and more. And it's very good that here we can discuss them and we can talk about how to use them. The role of non-commercial sector, of social entrepreneurship, is getting bigger and bigger, especially in the social field. If we talk about investments in the social sector, so 1 ruble invested in social entrepreneurship during 7 years, we got tenfold result. And this is one of the priority area which we shall support.
Today we are talking about the expanding of the non-governmental sector to the social policy. Probably we just lag behind the international standards. It's about 4%. The president said that we need to increase this indicator up to the 10%. It's very important that we have already trends in our country, and we see non-commercial organizations as partners. We see the partners from these organizations present here. So we're trying to organize the systematic approach to the persons while trying to create comfortable conditions for those persons in need, in distress, and the older people. We're trying to implement these projects in several regions. The projects on providing care to these people is also organized in several regions. Everything is focused, is targeting these persons. We are trying to work in tangible manner, trying to reach out all the persons in need, and we try to use new technologies, digital technologies, which allow us to do so. We also use crowd platforms not only for collecting funds for this project, but also to address other tasks, because sometimes people on site know better what to do, what should be done. So all persons from these organizations can provide their vision about how to better use these funds. Using the best practices from United States, we see that they got more than 400 technological solutions while spending only $150 million. And we are happy that regions now are trying to use the same formats, same tools to address these tasks in social policy. We are trying to accumulate the library of best practices in the social policies of various countries, and we're trying to produce best solutions for the regions which are prepared to use these solutions and which prove their efficiency and which are ready to introduce them. These are probably several projects regarding the staff training on distant learning for the schools. This is the project which is organized in 23 regions of the Russian Federation with the Ministry of Education, with the government of the Russian Federation. So we provided the opportunity to the kids to try various professions, to see how they are successful in the various professions and what are the opportunities provided by the regions. Out of 150 participants in these projects, 70% said that they are planning to leave their region to leave for Moscow or St. Petersburg without coming back to the region. After graduating this annual program, 30% out of this 70% came back to the group who said that yes, we understand that we are needed in our region, and we understand what kind of a profession we will promote in our region. Construction of new schools, construction of new training facilities for the kids, in order to ensure comfortable conditions for education for the kids, is also the reality. We see the change in the standards, which became obsolete. We're trying to ensure the proper conditions of education for about a huge amount of kids, and we allocated considerable amount of money for this. And we're trying to ensure the proper conditions for the schools, especially for the disabled children. This is also one of the components of this project, which unites non-commercial organizations, Ministry of Education, and Ministry of Social Protection. This is a complex service which provides services to the disabled children up to the 7-year-old. This program helps ensure the comprehensive assistance to be provided to these people. And sometimes people, after receiving these services, especially children receiving these services, are no longer disabled, and they go to normal schools. And this is the program which is financed by the Russian Federation. Colleagues, I'm happy that we have such an opportunity not to invent or reinvent a bicycle, but indeed using this forum we have a possibility to exchange these practices and opportunities and make the life of our children, our elder people better. It's clear why we should do this, because the social policy is targeting an individual. We should be in the focus of this policy. I would like to thank organizers Valentina Ivanovna, Galina Nikolaevna for their efforts, for the possibility which we have now, which is granted to us. The main forum in Russia is economic forum in St. Petersburg, but now in terms of social policy, this forum plays the important role in this regard, and I would like to thank the Moscow government for organizing from a cultural point of view this forum, very interesting and at a very high level. Thank you very much to organizers. Thank you very much, Svetlana Vitalyevna. Dear colleagues, regarding the structures headed by Svetlana Vitalyevna, they do have online portal or website where you find information about a lot of tenders, a lot of competitions, information. Please follow this information, and I believe all regions of Russia could get some additional information about additional opportunities in terms of promoting their projects or presenting their ideas and innovations. Dear colleagues, let me give the floor to the physician, active participant in theoretical physics and modern concepts of the world, to Mr. Kaku. I hope everyone have the translation headsets.
Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to talk about the future, your future. how the future is going to change social activity, wealth, and I want to try to answer one question. Where does wealth come from anyway? We see prosperity, but it's unevenly distributed around the world. Why are some nations rich? Why are some nations poor? Ultimately, after everything is said and done, wealth and prosperity comes from science and technology. But science and technology comes in waves. The first wave was the Industrial Revolution. We physicists worked out the steam engine, which made possible factories and locomotives and steamships. Physics unleashed the first great revolution. The second revolution was when we physicists worked out electricity and magnetism, and that unleashed the electric revolution. The third wave of wealth generation was when we physicists worked out the laws of transistors, lasers, and they gave us the high-tech revolution. So the question for today is, what is the fourth wave? The next wave of wealth generation and prosperity. I say it is science at the molecular level. When applied to life, that means biotechnology, DNA. Applied to atoms, that means nanotechnology. Applied to logic and intelligence, that means artificial intelligence. And so these are going to propel wealth generation into the future. The previous revolutions were fueled by oil. Oil and coal was the fire that lit up the previous revolutions. The next revolution will be fired up by data. Data is going to be the fuel for the fourth stage. But to process data, you need artificial intelligence. And this is where artificial intelligence is going to affect everything. Education, medical care, jobs, social services. Artificial intelligence will be one of the dominant engines of prosperity in the future. For example, let's take a look at medical care. Many people who are poor do not go to the doctors because it's too expensive until it's too late. And then they rack up a huge medical bill in the emergency room. In the future, all of us will talk to our wristwatch, and in our wristwatch will be RoboDoc. RoboDoc is artificially intelligent, speaks any language you want, accesses the entire internet, gives you sound medical advice almost for free. Artificial intelligence, simply by talking to the wall, talking to your wristwatch. Artificial intelligence giving you medical care anytime, any place. And not just that, but if you need a lawyer, you'll talk to RoboLawyer. RoboLawyer is artificially intelligent, speaks any language, gives you the law in any state, any nation. RoboLawyer. And then, when you want medical care and you have to replace a damaged organ, we will grow new organs of the body. Already, we can grow from your own cells, so there is no rejection. We can grow skin, noses, ears, cartilage, bone, windpipes, bladders, heart valves. That's today. We can grow most simple organs of the body. The next organ to be grown is the liver. So for all you alcoholics in the audience, we will grow new livers if your liver wears out. And then what about cancer? In this room right now, some of you have cancer. But you won't know it for 10, 15 more years. And by that time, it's too late. It will kill you. We are now inventing technologies which can analyze blood cells, bodily fluids, for cancer cells, cancer proteins, cancer enzymes in your blood, in your bodily fluids, 10 years before a tumor forms. In other words, the word tumor will disappear from our language. We will no longer say the word tumor. This year, starting this year, this is going to be made possible. Liquid biopsies. Liquid biopsies are going to be made available this year, allowing you to test your blood for cancer cells that are circulating in your body maybe 10, 20 years before a tumor forms. And so we're talking about a revolution in medical care spearheaded by artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence can now detect X-rays, anomalies in X-rays, MRI scans, PET scans, better than any human. These machines can identify cancer, early onset Alzheimer's, better than any human doctor. And now let's say a few things about education. In the future, the internet will be inside your contact lens. You will blink and you will be online. You will blink and download any course, download any school material right there in your contact lens. And who are the first people? Who are the first people to buy internet contact lenses? College students taking final examinations. They will be the first to buy internet contact lenses because they will blink and see all the material right there at their disposal. This means that education will no longer be about memorization. When you want to see the proteins, amino acids, the periodic chart, you simply blink, and all knowledge is right there in front of you. Therefore, we professors, I'm a professor, we professors are going to become mentors, advisors, career guidance counselors, role models, rather than simply teaching, because teaching will be done on your contact lens. And education is so important because the world economy is making a transition from commodity capital to intellectual capital. For example, food prices have been dropping for 200 years. For 200 years, agricultural products have been dropping steadily in price. But products of the mind have been rising in price because you cannot mass produce the brain. You cannot mass produce innovation, creativity, analysis. Intellectual capital is going to be the currency of the future. And that is a challenge. Many nations are dependent on agriculture. Their economy is based on commodities like food. Unfortunately, those nations of the future will be poor. Nations which will be rich are those nations which grasp the link between commodity capital and intellectual capital. England, for example, derives more revenue from rock and roll than the coal mining industry. Rock and roll is a product of the mind, a product of innovation and creativity, which cannot be mass-produced. Coal can be mass-produced. And so we're seeing a transition in the world economy as more and more nations use commodities as a leverage to the next stage. The second stage is to balance commodity capitalism and intellectual capitalism, to find the right balance between these two. Next, the job market. Some people say that artificial intelligence is good for other people, but not for them, because they don't want to lose their job. Yes, some jobs will go extinct. We do not have blacksmiths anymore. We don't have wagon makers anymore. But nobody cries about it. We don't need blacksmiths. We don't need wagon makers, and plus they became automobile workers. There are three major types of jobs that will not be replaced by robots, perhaps in this century. Three types of jobs. First of all, the jobs of the future will be those jobs that robots cannot do. Everything else will be done by a robot. So what are the jobs that robots cannot do? Three types of jobs. First is semi-skilled jobs done by laborers. Robots cannot pick up garbage. Robots cannot hammer a nail. Robots cannot fix a broken toilet. Robots cannot wire your house. Robots cannot design a garden. Semi-skilled work. Robots can't do any of those things. Picking up garbage. Our most advanced robots can't even pick up garbage. That's the first category. The second category, interpersonal relations, like lawyers, like professors, like counselors. One-to-one personal relations cannot be done by robots. People want to talk to a human if there is a problem. If you need guidance, if you need advice, you want to talk to a human, not a robot. And so the good news and the bad news is, the good news is that things will be cheaper in the future. Cars will drive themselves. Things will be more convenient. Cars will park themselves. Things will be better in the future. The bad news, however, is that we will have lawyers in the future. Sorry about that. Lawyers cannot be replaced by robots. But the third category is the most important of all. The third category is intellectual capitalists, innovators, people who plan, people who strategize, people who create new things. They will flourish in the future. Intellectual capitalists. And then what about the internet itself? How will the internet evolve? First, the internet will be inside your contact lens in the next coming decades. After that, the internet will be inside your mind, inside your brain. Already, we have now been able to connect the brain to a computer. We have sent the first memories on the internet now. Simple memories can now be sent on the internet. Eventually, feelings, sensations, memories will be sent on the internet, and the internet will become BrainNet. This will help to reduce barriers between people. People will understand each other when they understand each other's feelings, their deepest feelings and emotions. If somebody says, "I'm hurting," if somebody says, "I'm hurting," why should you believe them? It's just words. Why should you believe somebody who says they're suffering? But what happens if you could feel their suffering? What happens if you could feel what they are feeling? So this is going to change everything. It's going to change entertainment. Who wants to see a movie anymore when you can see something with feelings, with memories, with sensations? And art will also change in the future. Art always follows technology. In the future, artists will think of something, and we will extract the image and print it out with a 3D printer. Art and design of the future will be done mentally. We will simply think and have a 3D printer print out this thing and have it at our disposal. And now let me just close up by saying some things. I've been to Russia many times. I first came here in 1985 as a guest of the former Soviet Academy of Sciences, where I interacted with other physicists. And I was very impressed. The physicists, the scientists of Russia are among the best in the world. Nobel Prizes, enormous breakthroughs have been made by Russian scientists. But there's also a challenge. When I think of Russia, I think of a huge booster rocket, gigantic, powerful, a booster rocket ready to take off, powered by the energy of its people, powered by the enthusiasm and the spirit of its people. But it needs a match. It needs a match to send it into outer space. Think of what Russia has: an educated people, a people that are unified, that are energetic, forward-seeking. It just needs that match to get this huge, gigantic booster rocket sailing into outer space. And one last thought. Every revolution has winners and losers. The losers are people who believe only in commodity capital, like agriculture. But the winners are people who see commodity capital as a launching pad to intellectual capital. In other words, congratulations, you in this audience, you are among the winners. You represent innovation, planning, you represent strategizing, you represent creativity, you represent dreaming about a better future. Congratulations, you are among the winners of the future.
Спасибо, господин профессор.
Thank you very much, Professor Kaku, for such a very interesting and inspiring presentation. Let's hope that everything will come quite soon and we will be happy, healthy, and everyone in the world will be happy and healthy as well. Dear colleagues, let me give the floor to the former traveler writes of the book Blue Horizon, Mr. Blutner-Denner.
What a thrill, thank you. I'm just going to take a few minutes here to talk about the world's longest lived and happiest communities, populations, the statistically longest lived. For 15 years, I've been working with National Geographic to very carefully identify places where people live the longest and the happiest and just distill their best practices. But before I get into that, I would like to establish my Russian credentials. 29 years ago, in 1990, my brother and I teamed up with two Soviet cyclists, Volodya Kovalenko and Alexander Razumenko, and we set a world record for bicycling around the globe, around the world. The most significant part of that was the former Soviet Union. We started in Odessa, bicycled to Volgograd, Ufa, Novosibirsk, Irkutsk, Blagoveshchensk, Chita, and finished in Vladivostok. And for 6 months, we had rubles, but you couldn't spend rubles. So for 6 months, I depended on the hospitality of people throughout Russia. You might even recognize me. I may have slept on your floor one day 29 years ago, but I have this great endearing gratitude to Russia, and also I feel like I've had a chance to get to know a lot of your country and great affection for it. But my expertise, as I've said, since 2002 is working with National Geographic to identify 5 parts of the world where people have the highest life expectancy or the highest centenarian rate. And those places are Okinawa, Japan, longest lived women. The longest lived men live in Sardinia, Italy. The island of Icaria, Greece, produces a population that make it to mid-90s without dementia. The Nicoya Peninsula of Costa Rica have the lowest rate of middle-age mortality. They reach a healthy age 95, and they do so spending the least amount of money, about 1/15 of what we do in the United States. And then among the Seventh-day Adventists in America, they're living about 10 years longer than the rest of us. So how do they do it? No matter where you go in the world and you find people living a long time, you see the same things happening over and over and over again. Number one, they're not exercising.
Они не занимаются физическими упражнениями. А в Америке идея физических упражнений не преуспела. 70% из них имеют излишний вес. В голубых зонах они каждый день идут на работу или к другу домой. Они идут пешком всегда. У них нет механических приспособлений для того, чтобы работать, например, на кухне или в огороде. У них есть так называемые дачи. Они работают вручную. Как правило, они едят растительную пищу. 90-95% того, что они едят, это низкообработанная пища. И 4 основных элемента такой диеты – это зерновые, зелень, орехи и соевые. Если вы съедите пару бобов в день, наверное, вам добавится 4 года продолжительности вашей жизни. Мы знаем не знаем почему, либо там есть что-то волшебное в этих бобах, либо там есть протеин, есть что-то, чего нет в мясе, масле и так далее. Ну, они едят
which is worth about 7 years of life expectancy, and they live in communities where the idea of loneliness is impossible. The impact of loneliness, of not having at least 3 friends you can count on a bad day, is as bad for you as a smoking habit. But the key idea here, the idea I want you to come away with is the following. In no place in the world where you have healthy 80, 90, and 100-year-olds did those people ever try to live a long time. They never said at age 50, well, go darn it, I'm going to get on that longevity diet and live another 50 years. They don't call an 800 number and start taking supplements. They don't join a gym or get involved with CrossFit or some exercise program. The fact of the matter is, places where people live a long time is they never tried to live a long time. They did not pursue healthy longevity. The big idea is that it ensued. Health is the product of the proper environment. So their environment is set up so the healthy choice is the easy choice. And in many cases, the unavoidable choices. When you go around the world and you see the statistically happiest places, it is never a coincidence. I will guarantee you, there's no such thing as the happy native, where people are just coincidentally happy. It is always the result of enlightened leaders who shift their focus from just economic development to improving quality of life. And it's only when leaders start focusing on the evidence-based ways to improve quality of life that happiness begins to ensue. The happiest places like Denmark, Singapore in Asia, Boulder, Colorado, Costa Rica. These are the statistically happiest places. In every one of these places, you can go back 50 or 75 years, and you can see a group of leaders, like the government of Moscow doing with this conference right now, that said, we are going to focus on producing well-being. We're going to take the best practices from around the world, try a number of things, be willing to let some of them fail, but keep adding new things and measure until people start reporting higher levels of life satisfaction. It's exactly as we're doing here. As you probably know, Russia is not a blue zone. Life expectancy here is number 105 in the world. There are several countries in Africa that live longer than people in Russia. Life expectancy for Russia is about 72. And I don't mean this as a criticism. I love this country. I feel in many ways like I'm a brother or a son here. But you're way down there. It doesn't have to be that way. There are three things I'd like you to think about as you go back into your communities and start making differences. Number one, and I work with 40 different cities in America to do these first thing. Number one, you have about the highest smoking rate in the world. About 17% of everybody who die in this country this year will die because of smoking, and none of them have to die. There are very easy policy bundles, such as the ones you see in Denmark or the ones you see in San Luis Obispo in the United States, that make smoking more difficult, more expensive, and that educate children. You can easily lower it by a factor of 4 or 5. Number two, think about your roads. If you build your roads for automobiles, automobiles will come. If you build your roads for human beings, you'll get people out of their cars, on their feet walking, on their feet bicycling, or taking bicycle or taking public transportation. By just intelligently designing your roads, you can raise the physical activity level of a population by 30%. That is way more than you'll ever get by promoting gyms or promoting exercise programs. You're never going to collectively convince 100 million Russians to start getting 30% more exercise. But there's very easy models around the world for building roads for human beings. And then finally, think about your food. I'm going to apologize for America right now. Most of the blue zones around the world are corroding into places where diabetes is on the rise, cardiovascular disease is on the rise, and cancer is on the rise. And the number one reason for it is they have imported the American food culture. They've replaced this wonderful diet with pizza, fried chicken, hamburgers. It's the wrong way to go. In cities that want to reverse this trend, it's very easy. You say no to McDonald's and to Burger King and to Kentucky Fried Chicken. You make that food more expensive and less accessible. I hate to betray the corporations of my own country, but I see it around the world, and I see it causing enormous public health catastrophes. Today I had the wonderful experience of being able to see some of the best practices in the world being put to work right here in Moscow. I went to Sokolniki Park today, which represents about 100 parks in Moscow. 10 years ago, this huge, beautiful park was a vacant lot. And because of the proactive and calculated efforts of the city government here, they have created bicycle paths, they've created areas where older people can come dance every night, areas where young children can come play, places where older people can learn. They don't have to pay these people. They don't have to guilt people. They don't have to give them a reduction on their insurance. They simply make this access to recreation beautiful, easy, and affordable. And you get people off of their couch very easily. I saw these free clinics. I had the opportunity to spend 7 days in the Naval Hospital in Odessa in 1990. And let me tell you, it was a difficult week. Hospitals weren't the nicest place to go, but this morning I saw a free clinic that brought the hospital to people rather than making people go to the hospital and wait. A beautiful, clean place where people were checked for their blood pressure, their blood sugar, their weight, and these clinics catch a disease before it's a major issue in a hospital. It's the absolute right idea. You'll see a vast return on that effort. So in closing here, no matter where you go in the world and you see longevity, it's not because people tried to change individual behavior, they changed the environment. They made the healthy choice, the easy choice. There are several best practices in the world where this is happening, but it's also happening right here in Moscow. And for those of you who have the time to look at what's being done here, the seeds of health and longevity are starting to grow right here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Büttner. I'm sure that your recommendations or your ideas of an expert are very, very important and precious. We have to live long, all of us. Well, in many times we got an agreement with the expert that in many times we will meet each other again in good health and participating at the 30th fora. Dear colleagues, we have now several presenters, and I give them the floor. They will offer ideas, projects, but they will have not more than 5 minutes each. That's why please stick to the timetable for us to be able to close the plenary session in time. Thank you for your understanding. And now I give the floor to the director of the Department of the Regional Programs of the Expert Institute of Social Research, Daria Kislytsina. Next, Mikhail Kожевников.
Добрый день, уважаемые коллеги. Большое спасибо, уважаемые организаторы, за возможность выступить на столь...
Good afternoon. Thank you for giving me the floor at this very important forum. I represent Social Research Institute, Expert Institute, and I'd like to describe our product. We are observing and monitoring best management regional practices in different sectors, including social one. In certain time, we started to conduct weekly monitoring. Our country is a diverse place, a unique place, and each and every week we discover not less than 20 interesting cases in regions which should be analyzed, and not only analyzed, but they could be multiplied in other regions. Briefly, I'll tell you about what we have seen during the recent months. Well, from our point of view, the best managerial practices in social sector include 5 elements. First, and the most important, as best practices aimed at solving specific social problems characteristic for the territory. But this solution won't be efficient if it does not include mechanisms such as transparent of power. It's very important for the problems which are solved not to be imposed from above, not problems which the power thinks is important, but the voice of people should be heard. Third parameter, involvement of society. Project cannot be efficient without involvement of the community of the region. Fourth factor, personal monitoring of the authorities, monitoring of implementation of decision taken. And the third parameter, development of human capital. So those projects are of priority which are aimed at development of human capital and improvement of life. There are leaders among regions which could be a model for other regions. Moscow is #1. But there are other regions which are capable of finding interesting solutions, and they are doing just that, and their solutions should be analyzed. Just a couple of examples, recent examples. Fish. We know that for regions which are located near oceans or sea, the fish is there, but it's very expensive. I'm talking about Primorsk fish, Primorsk region, or other projects. We publish information about our projects on our website. That's why I just enumerate them. Then free of charge, giving free of charge land plots to young families up to 35 years old, to persons who lost their houses because of natural disasters, or beneficial credits when you go to rural places from towns in Belgorod region, which stimulates the development of rural areas. Then the reduction of what you pay for your communal services, for your apartments, St. Petersburg, and beneficial loans after when your first kid is born. There are regions, for example, Volогодskaya region, where they use these pilot projects. Talking about health and social protection, it's clear that Moscow is ahead of other regions, and now other regions are using Moscow best practices. They're using formats which developed in Moscow. For example, electronic results of your medical tests, which you can receive at home, then medical checks in the parks for all Muscovites, then oncological screening in Novosibirsk, then parents don't need to get health certificate for their kids. They got this documents from hospitals directly, and simplified methods to get the certificate of birth. Mechanisms are very important, which include social control. Society pays a lot of attention to this kind of approach. Monitor of transport, the monitoring of building of social centers, monitoring of taxi services. I'm trying to enumerate this rather fast. I mean, those elements which are of interest for us. And concluding my presentation, I'd like to say that all this information is accessible for the regions, and the key conclusion is that the most efficient are solutions which are based on social dialogue between authorities and society, and problems are solved efficiently only when the opinion of the population is taken into account. Thank you. Now I give the floor to the president of the company Enlightenment, Просвещение. Mr. Kozhevnikov, you have the floor. I think that Mikhail Kozhevnikov will mention agreements which we will sign during our forum. Thank you. Dear colleagues, it's a real pleasure for me to be at this forum, important forum. It should be mentioned. It's good that the Council of Federation is among the organizers of such important forum, which is aimed at improving the quality of life in our country. And the quality of life, the meaning, is very important. It cannot be underestimated. We do understand the importance to get away from constant talk about economic development, which we do need, but the final goal is the quality of life. businesses involved in the development and improving the quality of life, especially business working in the educational center. And the group of company Prosvещение, Enlightenment, together with Ministry of Education, has prepared the project of modernization of kids' free time in 40 pilot regions. We've built about 500 summer camps for kids, and up to 2020 we will double the number of kids which spend their summertime in summer camps. To build just one camp for 800 people, for 800 kids, you need about 800 million of rubles. The first pilot project has been started in Novgorod region thanks to its governor Gleb Nikitin. During the first day of our forum, we have signed an agreement with the Moscow region government to rebuild dozens and dozens of kids' summer camp, or using as a basis of former Soviet summer camps, which are in ruins now. Our task is to rebuild them and to fill it with a new educational content, to involve high professionals, and in the nearest future we will sign a concessional agreement to build summer camp for kids in Kaliningrad region. We count on the we think that this should be multiplied, and we think that it is important to give the possibility to the maximum number of kids in this country to spend their summer holidays, not only summer holidays, but to spend their free time in such camps. Development of infrastructure of kids for kids' free time will help regions to create additional employment and give the possibility for kids to spend their free time in an interesting fashion. Thank you. Dear colleagues, those who represent regions, you should get familiar with this project. It's a huge problem. Health of our children. Organization of free time for kids. So this group of companies is open for cooperation. Getting ready for this forum, we got information about this project, and we spread it among regions. So let's help this project to be implemented. It's very important. Those who will need consultations, we are ready to provide it together with our team, business team. Dear colleagues, now I'd like to pass the floor to a wonderful lady, Irina Borovaya, who represents Interregional Non-Commercial Organization, Association of Oncological Patients. Hello. She will tell you about this interesting project, and I am sure that you will use these best practices in your regions. Thank you. I am grateful to the Council of Federation to invite us, and I'd like to thank them for giving me the floor and for supporting our activity. During this forum, we signed trilateral agreement between Council of Federation, Association of Doctors who deal with oncology in Russia, and our organization. We do screening visits to the regions. We, as non-commercial organization, visit regions, and we invite all who is linked to the implementation of the program oncology in the regions, for people to understand how this program is implemented in the regions. We invite federal experts. We organize screening programs. We spread information about state-of-the-art equipment and the programs in this area. As part of the implementation of this project in our country, I have 7 kids, and cancer for me was a rather distant story. I didn't want to talk about it, to hear about it, but according to WHO statistics, up to 2050. Each person in our world will face this problem. 3 years ago, I was saved by medical doctors, and I'm grateful to them for that. In Russia, we have unique medical doctors who have their own technology and knowledge, and they use it worldwide, but they should be helped. They don't have the possibility to use their knowledge fully. They don't have all the necessary equipment which other countries have. Unfortunately, oncological service doesn't have enough personnel, doesn't have state-of-the-art equipment and methods used in other countries. Today we've had here key, most important elements. It's fighting with smoking. Together with WHO, we organize a campaign against smoking. We are the most smoking. We are among the most smoking countries in the world. It's the cause of many diseases, and we have to keep fighting this bad habit. Although we've signed the framework convention dealing with fighting smoking, and that's a breakthrough for us. We talked about healthy lifestyle. We've seen projects in Moscow dealing with longevity, implemented in Moscow dealing with longevity, and I wish other regions to do the same. When we come to regions, we talk about this, and we spread this information together with oncological medical doctors who represent federal agencies. The main oncological doctors are supporting us. I'd like to thank them for that. We would like to see the non-commercial or philanthropic community social organizations to be involved in the program oncology, to be involved in the implementation of national strategy. Our role is not determined in the implementation of the strategy. And in the federal legislation, there is no definition of our role, and it's not fair because social, philanthropic organizations who are active in this sector with screening projects with patients, they have the image already built, and we can talk about problems which we are facing. We can protect our rights, our life. Fighting oncological diseases is not just a fight with high temperature and other manifestations of this disease. It's the struggle for life, because oncological diseases are mortal diseases, and if all of us are not involved in the implementation of the program oncology, if we are not involved in its full implementation in all regions by 2050, when we face this problem, we won't be able to solve it. And we would like to be able to cure oncological diseases, same like we do same like we do with other diseases, like flu, for example. So please involve non-commercial or make non-commercial organizations part of our legislation as socially oriented centers. And I'd like to thank the Council of Federation members of our government, and personally our President Vladimir Putin, for initiating this program. We have been waiting for such program for many, many years. Thank you. Thank you. This is a very active person, a wonderful person, and we actively support these ideas, these projects. Igor Agramanyan, together with other medical doctors dealing with oncology, started a very important campaign, onco-monitoring, which oncological monitoring, which they've started in different regions. And this is an opportunity to inform our citizens and give them the most important information. And now I'd like to give the floor to yet another wonderful person, Natalia Loseva. She will tell us about mass media as an indicator of development of social policy. Without mass media, we won't be able to inform our citizens about these important projects. Well, thank you. It's not that easy to follow Irina, but just one phrase. 5 or 10 years ago, it was not possible to imagine that a person with cancer actually is talking about this, because it was a serious stigma in Russia and other countries. I'm cancer survivor. I'm also cancer survivor, and I'm energetic. I'm active. And the fact that we've started to talk about this means that we will help others as well. Dear colleagues, Galina Nikolaevna, first and foremost, I'd like to congratulate you with this fantastic forum. It's a wonderful event at the very high level, organized at a very high level. And professionally, it linked many different aspects. For example, we talk about social information, and I'll talk about mass media. Today we are here not like an institute which is responsible for informational support of our life.
Today we are present here as partners. It's very important because it's a groundwork for successful reforms. In the context of the technological development, the overwhelming offering of messages and information, it's very important to keep the proper level of activities of mass media. Technologies are changing our way of life, but they can provide additional tools to reach to the individuals, to their needs. I would like to show some examples how mass media can use new formats to cover social events. For example, podcast, a new, very popular format about homeless persons. We were talking about a certain social service which was trying to rehabilitate the persons, the homeless persons. So journalists were curators of this program. We just were showing the results of this project, and some more examples. Various mass media joined their efforts in order to collectively cover online the way of the homeless children, adopted children. You see various mass media present here, like Komsomolskaya Pravda Daily, Russia Today, and so on and so forth. This is another Russian Today project, when they just pick up a problem of a small person in need, in distress. They're trying to check this problems, verify this problem, and they're trying to look for the ways how to help this person. Another interesting, long standing cooperation with these mass media shown on the screen. They use various methods, pictures, information online, and just to reach out those persons in need. And I would like to also mention about the efficiency of the operation of mass media in the modern formats, when the audience is a sort of sort of rigid in terms of survive the information or feel deeply this information which they hear. And here we are trying to use the up-to-date technologies. This is mechanic autism. So a person puts virtual reality goggles, and now he feels as a person in need or in distress. So he can feel what is happening around him, what is happening inside this person. So he just live through this situation of these people in need or with these diseases. Oh, this is the report about the blind persons in a big city. We are talking about 3 blind youngsters, and you can put these goggles and you just feel what this blind person can feel daily. That produce enormous effects for these persons. This is how we need to work in the future. We will continue these experiments, tests. We are the first in the world to do so as mass media, and we hope to be invited for the next forum, social forum, and we will inform you about further results of these activities. Thank you very much for this forum. Thank you very much, Natalia Gennadievna. Now I would like to give the floor to the director of the Autonomous Non-Commercial Organization Agency of the Social Information, member of the Social Chamber, Elena Andreevna Topoleva-Sokunova. Please stick to the time limits. Dear colleagues, dear friends, I'm happy to be here with you during these 3 days, and I would like to join those thanking for a high organization of this forum. Yesterday, I visited practically all the meetings, all the discussions. So you compare this forum with the St. Petersburg Economic Forum, and we, together with the government of Moscow, we decided to be even better than the Economic Forum. We are talking about the social policy, which deals with the needs practically of all present here. And I would like to thank Madam Karelova for attention to these issues. We have the combination of the representative of social organizations, non-commercial organizations, and so on. And we see that today those objectives faced by non-commercial sector, they are quite complex, and they are indeed challenges for us. Non-commercial organizations are not only coming to the social policy markets, they would be even more active in doing so, but they are also active in transforming the situation in this market. We see the emergence of very interesting programs of assistance to the people in need, people with disabilities, and so on. But in order to maintain this trend, keep up with this trend, we need, of course, be more professional. Of course, we have our mission, enthusiasm, but it's not enough. In order to be capable of seriously coping with all these tasks, we need to think about raising the professionalism of those involved in this sphere to reach the higher levels of these professionals. There are a lot of ways how to do so. We see how in many regions authorities are trying to develop the solid programs to train social workers as suppliers of the social services to the populations. I'm referring to Khanty-Mansiysk, Tyumen, Leningrad regions, and other regions of our country. Not everywhere, and of course we would like to see the bigger number of these projects around the regions. We see best practices of cooperations between non-commercial organizations and universities. This is another interesting story and quite prospective one. Why? On one hand, non-commercial organizations for universities could be a place of training for the students. Unfortunately, judging by the statistics, only 1% of the graduates see their future in non-commercial organizations. But we would like to see the bigger number of them. And this is up to the cooperation between non-commercial organizations and universities. And on the other hand, universities are a place for the retraining of the social workers or additional education for the social training, especially according to the programs organized by the high schools of economics or Russian Academy of Science and Civil Service or Moscow social and psychological institutes and so on and so forth. So the program of additional education is a big resource for retraining for both social workers and workers of the non-commercial organizations. And of course, it's very important to build in that the social workers and non-commercial workers should be built into this structure so that they know better how to manage these processes in these two areas. And we also would like to see the more active role played by the mass media covering our activities, presenting examples of the work of the social volunteers, social workers as professionals, as suppliers of the social services, and implementing serious social projects. I would like you to draw your attention to some serious projects organized by the Moscow government, Potanin's Foundation, which is the popularization of the professional work of the non-commercial organizations. And to conclude, we also have signed a memorandum on cooperation between the Council of Federation and the Social Chamber regarding the non-commercial organizations. So we will be acting as a social federal platform for the support of the non-commercial organizations to get to a higher level of professionalism in their activities. Thank you very much, Elena Andreevna. This is about our enthusiasm supported by professionalism in all spheres of promotion of non-commercial organizations, which appeared thanks to the support of the Elena Andreevna. Dear colleagues, everything in life does make sense if it is continued. Now we are thinking about the agenda of the next forum. So financial, economic tools, taxation tools, which could be engaged or implemented in the social policies. So I would like to give the floor to announce this agenda to Madam Kuznetsova Anna Vasilyevna regarding the creation of the platform for social investors. Anna Vasilyevna is executive director on the stock market of the joint stock company of the Moscow Stock Exchange. Good morning, dear colleagues, dear friends. Thank you for inviting me to attend this forum, to speak at this forum. I liked this forum. I was delighted to listen to the speakers, what they said today. I would like to tell you about two areas dealt with my organizations in terms of social investment. In Russia, we have a lot of socially responsible business and socially responsible investors dealing with the social or environmental investment. The younger business population, they are focused in their activities on what they are doing in this regard. But still, there are some challenges in terms of selection of the socially oriented projects, and to be sure that this money come to those who really need this money. So we decided, and this year we launched a project regarding the sector of the sustainable development, which is dealing with the bonds, issuance of bonds, social bonds for social projects implementations, green bonds for the technologically green projects. Second important area is the raising of awareness raisings among the population about these things. We set up a huge project of the financial literacy. That would be done for the third time with the support of Ministry of Finance and the government of Moscow. And we organized a specific fair. We will cover all the issues related to the loans, microcrediting, and startups or organization of business and digital business. This fair will be held this October in Moscow, and you can easily visit this or visit it online. I believe that not only the security markets, not only in the context of the security markets, it is very important to create the venue where investors and those willing to start some projects could meet, and I believe this idea would be implemented within next 2 years. Moscow Stock Exchange can contribute to the development of social investment in Russia. Thank you very much. Dear colleagues, our plenary meeting is coming to an end, and let me make a number of conclusions or maybe proposals. So first I would like to propose to adopt the draft recommendations which is posted online, and you can read it, which was distributed before this meeting. If there are no objections, we adopted this as the basis for our work, and Council of Federation and Moscow of the government will work this out further with all the recommendations and proposals made at this forum. There are plenty of proposals to this end, and I believe that they are all focusing on increasing efficiency of the social policy in the country. If you approve the first proposals, I would appreciate this. Then we will continue the work on these draft recommendations. Do you approve it? Yes. Thank you very much, dear colleagues. Within this 3-day work, we have had a lot of informative discussions, coach sessions, master classes, presentations. So About 100 events have taken place. The main topics of the forum were the role of national projects in a breakthrough areas, innovative projects and technologies in social policy, inclusion of socially oriented of NCOs and business in implementation of the national projects. And the main focus of the participants in the forum was shifted to discussing the issues of the information support of social policy, new approaches and possibilities of the use of social contracts, a role of mass media as a tool to interaction between authorities and the society. We have presented the comprehensive program of the development of rural areas in Moscow region. Moscow presented its advanced projects. And at the request of Madam Matvienko and organizers of this forum, I would like to thank Moscow for hosting this forum, for organization and participation in organization of this forum, and more specifically for those projects which they sincerely presented, hoping that these projects would be shared by all the regions of the Russian Federation. Thank you very much, Vladimir Arshakovich, and many thanks to your team, to the team of your city. This is a disruptive technologies breakthrough work dealing with the daily generation of new projects and development of organization of social policy in the country. Many contracts and agreements have been signed. We do not know the exact number of them. As of yesterday, this number amounted to 30. In particular, the agreement on construction of a secondary school for 1,250 students was assigned in Khanty-Mansiysk region with a Nombori social environment. To implement this project, the private investors will invest more than 1.5 billion rubles. Concessional agreements was signed on construction of the modern pension house for the elderly people in the Moscow region. And those agreements, which have been already signed to promote the social infrastructure for children, have been also signed, and we would like to see the continuation of these processes so that in all regions of the Russian Federation we will see the appearance of the socially oriented infrastructure for children. Dear colleagues, our forum gave start to a better interaction between business and the regional authorities of the Russian Federation. Today we see the implementation of the 10 projects for construction of the housing for elderly people in Moscow and St. Petersburg, in Leningrad region, Voronezh region, and other regions. This experience has shown that cooperation between business and the state is about a new standard of quality of caring for elderly people. Socially oriented non-commercial organizations are taking active part in this field. We also selected the winners of the All Russia competition of socially oriented projects. This is the annual competition. It's declared well before the social forum or forum on social innovations, and it is attended by many participants. Many participants have already presented their vision, their projects, especially the outcome of these competitions made yesterday were attended by the representatives of the 71 regions of Russia, and more than 500 projects were presented there. Among those regions and project work, this number has increased, and we are happy to give the possibility to the winners to visit other countries or cities. This year they will visit Sochi, attending a workshop, organizational workshop, to exchange opinions and experience. We do hope that they will not only present their projects, but have a good time there. The main outcome of their work is the projects introduced, focusing on change of life for better for the people in the regions. We hope that our forum is attended by socially concerned persons. More than 30,000 persons attended this forum. It's quite a solid number of attendees. These are people who came not only to see what was happening there, they were quite active in participating in all the events. You've seen how elderly people tried to dance, to show how they participate in training courses. So they use their personal experience and examples, demonstrating that everything is possible in this life to make it better, happier, and what is more important, healthier. The life of ordinary people is quite relevant not only for the big cities but also for the rural areas. We need to work out technologies of a better quality, modern technologies, which would be interested not only for the elderly citizens but also for the youngsters. And I believe that youngsters indeed got the opportunity to get something new, discussing youth agenda, and of course we greet and welcome the young participants and their projects. And for the first time our forum was attended by the foreign partners, leading experts, scientists from European countries, United States, and near abroad. And I believe that the growing popularity of this forum and social innovations, which are interested not only for Russia but for the foreign countries as well, will convert this forum into truly international framework for discussion of social policy related issues. This third forum demonstrated preparedness of the social policy for serious work to implement national projects and strategic objectives of the national development. Yesterday, during the direct line with the President of Russia, he confirmed this, and the questions asked by the citizens to the president demonstrated that the social issues are the major concern for them, and we do hope that the proposals of the forum would be truly implemented for the benefit of our citizens, for the sake of the innovative development of our country. To conclude, I would like to stress that the implementation of the large-scale objectives and projects or national projects would be possible only through concerted efforts of the society, business, state, and volunteers should work as a one team, and I believe that we are doing right in this regard. And once again, in conclusion, I would like to thank Moscow, Mayor of Moscow, Sergei Semyonovich Sobyanin, and his entire team, and for preparing, organizing this forum, for their wholehearted work and attitude to the organization of all the events which became indeed very important events for our country. I would like to thank all moderators, speakers, all the participants and guests of this forum for their sincere attitude to our country, to our social policy. And I do hope that together we will be capable of converting our country into the prosperous country where the socially oriented policy would become a priority. And I would like to thank the entire team of the Council of Federation, senators, their office, those involved in the organization of this forum. And indeed, to conclude, I would like to wish all of you, my dear colleagues, good health. We need to live longer, otherwise it's not possible. We need to address the task of extending longevity of our citizens. Let's serve as an example. We don't have other way to go forward. Thank you very much.
Уважаемые друзья, хочу предупредить.
Dear friends, today at 6 p.m. in the same meeting room, we will have a wonderful gala concert, and we invite all of you to attend. Thank you. See you.
Уважаемые участники и гости форума, напоминаем вам о необходимости сдавать устройство синхронного перевода при выходе из зала. Благодарим за внимание.